Hello, comrades, and welcome back to Ushanka Show. Здравствуйте, дорогие товарищи. В эфире программа Ushanka Show.
各位观众、同志们，大家好，欢迎收看苏联谢尔盖同志主持的节目《雷锋茂秀》。
That's right. Leifon Mao Show. This is Ushanka Show in Chinese. Fun fact. Leifon was a Chinese soldier that was the subject of a lot of propaganda posters. He wore an Ushanka hat in the posters, so Ushanka became known in China as Leifon hat. Well, probably by now some of you comrades already figure out that today we're going to talk about China. Fun fact, recently I discovered totally by accident that my videos posted on Chinese YouTube site called Bilibili. Quite interesting story, but yeah, there are several of my videos with Chinese subtitles available in China. I'm not sure how many of you guys are aware that in China, YouTube is not available, Facebook is not available. It's blocked by so-called Chinese internet firewall, and they have their own copycats like Bilibili is the kind of similar to YouTube. But what I want to do today is do some comparison between Soviet Union and Communist China. And we're going to try to answer the question that bothers many people all over the world, and especially in Russia. Was it possible for Soviet Union to go the Chinese route and stay together, implement reforms, but remain a single country and explode economically just like China did? There are some interesting similarities between Soviet Russia and China. They both proved that Marx was wrong when he claimed that a socialist revolution can occur only in industrial developed countries like Germany, France, or Great Britain. Both Russia and China were mostly agricultural countries with large population of people living in the villages, but meanwhile they still managed to have socialist revolutions. Success of the revolution in Russia was the direct result of two wars. Russian-Japanese War of 1905 was a serious punch in the gut, and World War I finished off Russia and made it weak enough for the socialist coup to succeed. In similar fashion, World War II, or more exactly, War of Japan against China, helped to create Communist China, of course, with a little tiny help from Comrade Stalin. Both Soviet Russia and Communist China lost millions of people due to starvation while trying to introduce collective farming to millions of peasants. And sooner or later, both countries implemented NEP, New Economic Policy, more or less successful. The topic of NEP, a new economic policy in Soviet Union, deserves its separate video, probably many more videos. But right now I just want to mention, it's kind of curious that NEP is perfectly matches in Russian and English. It's Новая экономическая политика, NEP in Russian, and New Economic Policy, NEP in English. Okay, so right now I'm gonna say something really stupid, but maybe some of you will agree with me. I think that NEP occurred total of 3 times in the Soviet Union. First, New Economic Policy was initiated by Vladimir Lenin in 1921, and it was over by 1924. And just by accident, it's the same year when Joseph Stalin became the leader of the Soviet Union. So he stopped that process. Fun fact, I was told by one of my Chinese friends that Deng Xiaoping, the leader of Communist China who began Chinese NEP back in 1979, he was in Soviet Russia around 1920, and he saw what NEP did to the Soviet Russia, to the economy. And of course, Comrade Stalin also was in Soviet Russia at that time, and he saw what NEP did to the economy as well. So if Deng Xiaoping got inspired by Soviet NEP, Comrade Stalin got very mad. It's almost like NEP opened his eyes. He's like, I know, bastards, that you can work hard, you just don't want to, so we need to come up with some system to make you work as hard as you work for yourself. let me introduce you to Gulag. And if you don't know what happened next in the USSR, I suggest you to grab a couple of books by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. One Day in Life of Ivan Denisovich is amazing introduction to Gulag camp life, and then of course famous Gulag Archipelago or Archipelago Gulag. Second Soviet NEP started in 1953, so about 30 years after the first NEP, and it lasted till 1964. So that's kind of interesting. When Comrade Stalin became the leader, first NEP stopped. When Comrade Stalin passed away, the second NEP began. And when I talk about second NEP, NEP 2.0, of course, I mean Khrushchev reforms, money reform, economical reform, social reforms. So he tried to do quite a bit until he got removed in 1964. And the third and the final Soviet NEP was started by Comrade Mikhail Gorbachev in 1986. So once again, it's kind of interesting. Almost 30 years after second NEP, and we know what happened after he introduced perestroika, glasnost, and ускорение. In 1991, Soviet Union ceased to exist. And now let's take a look at PRC, People Republic of China. So People's Republic of China, or as we say in Russian, Народная Китайская Республика, was created in 1949. Exactly 30 years later, in 1979, Deng Xiaoping, who became a leader of China, introduced his version of new economic policy in China. I find this number, 30 years, quite interesting. It's like a circles of life of the socialist system in socialist countries. So if you have a young leader who became a leader in his 40s, he's gonna die in his 70s, so that's exactly a 30-year cycle. After that, next leader gonna try to implement some changes, implement NEP. So that happened in Soviet Union, and it happened also in China. So now we arrive to our question: why China succeeded where Soviet Union failed? Why Chinese NEP was such a huge success while Soviet NEP caused Soviet Union to collapse? I think there are several reasons. One of them, which is not the major one, is that Soviet Union was, as they say here in America, for the cars that speeding on the highway and then other cars go behind. Soviet Union was shaking the bushes, or he was a running quarterback. So you could follow Soviet Union and learn on mistakes, learn on the failures, or in this case, ultimate failure of the Soviet Union. As the famous Russian economist Vasily Leontiev said once, China took everything what worked from us and ignored everything that didn't. It took the best and it didn't take anything bad. And that guy, Vasily Leontiev, he actually worked in China in 1920s. For example, China didn't apply so-called shock therapy. That's how the most former socialist countries, Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary, and Russia and Ukraine, went through this transition from socialist kind of style economy to capitalist economy. Chinese took their time. They did slow reforms. There was no real shock therapy.
摸着石头过河。
That was one of the Deng Xiaoping quotes about reforms, that they will cross the river by filling the stones.
不管黑猫白猫，捉到老鼠就是好猫。
Here was another interesting Deng Xiaoping quote about the reforms. It doesn't matter whether a cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice. Another huge advantage that China had over Soviet Union is pretty much indefinite pool of cheap labor. I mean, if you compare population of Soviet Union versus China, there's no comparison, right? China also took totally different approach to its currency, comparing what Russia did or independent Ukraine did. You see, both Russia and Ukraine, when they became independent states, they spent huge amount of money, foreign currency, to support the rate of exchange of its local currency, like Russian ruble or Ukrainian hryvnia, versus dollar or euro, So they were borrowing money, like borrowing dollars, to trade for the local currency to maintain the rate. Like in Ukraine for years they maintained 8 hryvnias for a dollar, but it wasn't real rate of exchange. It was artificially supported by the central bank. I'm not an economist, but if you keep your local currency artificially high, it makes your labor expensive, it makes your goods more expensive. So I understand it makes more effective to steal money, because if you steal in local currency, if you steal in rubles and rate of exchange is 10 rubles for a dollar, you can steal way more if the rate of exchange will be 1,000 rubles for a dollar. So that helped people who were moving money out of the country, but it made countries like Ukraine and Russia not competitive on the world market, especially for labor. Well, China faced different problem, because with inflow of foreign currency, it should have effect that local yuan will be rising in price, because you have scarcity of local currency versus big inflow of foreign currency. But China locked its rate of exchange. It made the yuan float along with the dollar. So they did pretty smart there. And if we compare China with the Soviet Union, of course, we need to talk about the size of the country. But in this case, just like in the movie Shrek, sure, the Soviet Union was huge, but look at its location. Over the centuries, Russia expanded to the direction of the least resistance, so its imperial moves to the west didn't succeed much. I mean, they took over Poland and Finland for a while, but the most successful move was eastwards, and it's just huge country, but the territory is far up north, really hard to be accessible. Climate is horrible, so that's a huge disadvantage for Soviet Union and Russia right now. To give you some idea how far north Russia is, I live in southwest Michigan. So Crimea, which is pretty much the most southern point of Russia, but used to be of Soviet Union, it's pretty much where southwest Michigan is, one of the northernmost states in the United States. The long geographical story short, pretty much where the northern border of America stops, it's where the southern border of Russia begins. So pretty much Soviet Union was location-wise most like Canada, but even bigger. And all it takes is just to look at the map of Canada. Like everything is along the border with United States. Everything towards south, a little bit more north, and there's nothing going on, just the small towns around some hole in the ground when they dig for minerals or for the oil sands. Otherwise, it's just emptiness. It's not economically interesting to build anything so far north. It's too expensive. And if you look at China, they have huge Pacific shoreline, warm climate, easy access to the main trading routes in Pacific. Climate is great. You just pour concrete floor, set up metal barn, and you got your factory going. So besides the Chinese policies, population and location, China has huge advantage over the Soviet Union. Oh my goodness, I think this video gonna be definitely very long and very boring, but I have one more thing. Long time ago, Comrade Vladimir Lenin said famous words: greedy capitalists will sell us the rope that we're gonna use to hang them. And you should know by now that Soviet massive industrialization in the 30s was made possible by American companies like Caterpillar, Ford, and many others. Of course, we had Italians participating, Great Britain too. They sold the rope, they sold the factories, they began manufacturing tanks and tractors. But Chinese came up with even better idea. Greedy capitalists gonna teach us how to make the rope, and we're gonna use this rope. And here, I don't know what's the Chinese plans and what they're planning to do with this rope, but they're not buying the rope. They're making capitalists teaching them how to make the rope. Until recently, not a single foreign company could open its own production in China on its own. They always had to have a joint venture with some local company. So you got 50-50 ownership. You bring your know-how, you bring your technology, they bring the labor force, and you teach them how to make things. And almost all the time, those contracts have required transfer of technology. If you want to build the trains, you're going to transfer technology, how to build the trains. If you want to build nuclear plants like Westinghouse in China, you also will be required to transfer the technology. So as I mentioned earlier, I have no idea what Chinese government has in mind, but definitely they succeeded where Soviet Union failed. China became pretty much the world powerhouse. It became the world factory, manufacturing pretty much everything from basic plastic toys all the way to advanced electronics. So that's quite impressive. Well, my friends, that's all I have for you today. Can't wait to see the comment sections. I expect a lot of interesting comments and reviews. And we'll talk to you soon. До свидания. Goodbye.
再见。
Cool Comrades is available at the Ushanka store at teespring.com. Just a friendly reminder that my book American Diaries is available on amazon.com, or shoot me an email if you would like to have a signed copy. Thank you. And if you love my channel and would like to show your support, please click on the link below this video and become the patron of the Ushanka Show. For as little as $1, you can help us grow and create the new interesting videos about the life in Soviet Union.